All right, the Reds, Thursday's Talking Reds. Gareth Roberts, joined by Mel Reddy today, senior football correspondent for joe.co.uk. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, I got it right. Get in. It's my lad's birthday today. He's 10 years old. I feel really old about that. But I was watching him opening all his presents this morning, little smile on his face and all that, and I thought, yesterday was a bit like that for us, because we finally got to open our Naby Keita presents after a year of waiting. You've interviewed him in the past.
Yeah.
Everyone's quite rightly getting excited about him and watching all the clips again and reading all the interviews and everything else. Facts and figures, he's number 8, you've probably seen that by now, and he was handed that by Steven Gerrard. He's the first player to wear that shirt since the great man. He's 23, he's cost 56 million quid. But Mel, you know him a bit better than I do, so tell us, you're excited about it, aren't you? Because we were talking about it the other day and I could see you were excited. You're not just messing about and that. So go on, why is he boss?
It's rare skill set. He can play midfield offensively and defensively with, equal sort of aplomb, and that is quite a difficult task because you always find a player leaning to one. Either he's more attacking or he's more interested in the protection side of the game, but he can literally do both excellently. He plays in a number of positions. He can play 6, 8, 10, best probably as an 8, because he can then fuse both, the offensive and defensive side of his game together. Is very, very confident both on the pitch and off it.
That comes across.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people say, it takes courage to get the number 8 shirt and want the number 8 shirt. And I think in a football sense, yes, especially at this football club, given that Steven Gerrard wore it. But I think what shows courage is his background, his childhood. Had to play football on the streets of Conakry and dodging cars. There was no football pitch. There was no ball. Playing with taped, rolling pieces of paper together, playing with tape. He didn't have boots, and so every time he actually goes back home, he buys a whole lot of boots to give to children in the community. And the most remarkable thing, and this is not strange for African footballers because a lot of them don't grow up in an academy. It is all street football and playing with your mates. So at 16, when he went over to France, and he would travel to France quite a lot to go for trials, he was told quite a few times that he'll never make it in Europe because he's got no tactical understanding of the game. This was just 7 years ago. And I mean, in that period, I remember him saying that obviously you go into a place, it's a completely different culture, different, even the way the language is French is spoken, everything's different. You're used to playing with your mates, now you go and you're playing with strangers who are all desperate to make it, so no one really talks to you. But he said that wasn't the weirdest thing of all, because he knew what he was going there for, to play football. But he was hearing all these terminologies, all these tactical words from coaches that had no idea what they meant. And to then go and become this player that managers the world over rave about because of his, positional awareness, his tactical understanding, his technical ability to fuse both sides of the game, is quite remarkable. And I think, when Jurgen Klopp, when it was announced that Liverpool signed him, Jurgen Klopp said he got a raft of messages. His phone has never buzzed so much with people from the Bundesliga and other managers saying what a coup it is, and it really is.
I reread your interview that you did with him, which was for Goal, not your current employer. But there's a boss quote in there from Naby where he says, "I was quite small and so I had to fight for everything. The chance to play, for the ball, to get respect. And that's why not even cars could stop me," because as Mel mentioned, where he was kicking around playing footy in Guinea, cars going everywhere. And he says, "It's where the aggression in my game comes from, which is so important for my position." Just a little bit on that. I've seen a couple of people, including some of my mates, who've said, really excited to see him, really looking forward to it. Love the idea of a sort of box-to-box midfielder, which is quite old school. He almost sounds a little bit Gerrard-esque in many ways. But if there's a little small concern, it's this, that his temperament's a little bit and that he's had a few red cards and things like that. Does that worry you at all?
Yeah, when I went to Leipzig in November to do that interview, I spoke to a lot of people around the club, and then actually journalists who cover rival clubs, to get a sort of understanding about this aggression and how they interpreted it. And a lot of it actually, when you watch back and you see the 2 yellow cards, you look at it and thinking, that's never a foul. How is that a foul? And then that reputation sort of built, and so opposition players started targeting him. And the thing, that was the one point that everyone sort of agreed on, that it was then a tactic because he was Leipzig's most important player. If you disrupt him, you disrupt Leipzig. Yeah. So, and that's new to him. I don't think he never had to deal with that before, being continuously the target of opposition players. And he struggled with that initially, and I think that's where the aggression boiled over. And then towards the end of the season, he seemed to then get used to the fact that he was being targeted, and he handled it better. But I think it's all probably from a false reputation that gathered, and then people tried to play on that as a weakness. I think he obviously needs to continuously learn how to handle it better, because it will be the same in the Premier League. Especially in the Premier League, where players will look to get at him. I like the fact that he plays with no fear. I think this Liverpool team needs a bit of his assertiveness and the aggression he shows. And he needs to learn to channel it in the right way, which I think he'll be helped with at Liverpool, because at Leipzig, a lot of the responsibility fell on him. Obviously at Liverpool, when you look at that front three, when you look at players like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain as well, who provide dynamism, it's not all on him, so he doesn't have to deal with any added pressure and stuff.
Another couple of things on it. I just wonder, given what we know about his character, and that comes across in that piece you wrote. We've talked about it before, but it does seem that Liverpool, Klopp, Edwards, whoever it is, or the collective, I guess, they do seem to be looking for certain traits in players, don't they? This sort of, almost the idea that you've come through a bit of adversity to get to where you are. They like that, they want that type of character in the team. And another aspect of that as well, I mean, he's Sadio's mate, isn't he? So that's going to help. But I almost wonder whether they look at players and go, is this accepted wisdom that it takes time to settle from another league? But are they looking at players, do you think, where they go, okay, yeah, it does, and there's a little period where that needs to be the case. But are they looking at players and going, but he's more likely to settle quickly? So, you look at, a lot of the signings Klopp's made since he's been here, there hasn't been this big transformation. Lots of them seem to have just got here and been decent almost from day one. And I just wonder whether there's, that we know that they're behind the scenes collating information and stuff all the time. And do you think it's deliberate, all this character thing, this ability to settle?
Yeah, I think transfers it's always a gamble.
Yeah,
regardless of how much money you spend and how good a player can be, you never know. But what you try and do is minimize the risk as much as possible. And you do that with information, the piece I did on Roberto Firmino about the scouting process shows how detailed it is and how many facets it ticks off, going to watch training sessions, which gives you a clearer idea. Match day, player will want to perform on a match day, especially if he wants to progress in his career and want to move to a bigger club. But in training, you get the true sort of perception of how hard-working they are, how serious they take it. And then also, how do they, what's the relationship like with coaches, with physios, because that also tells you the kind of person they are. And I think, obviously, what helps a player settle is how they fit into a team in terms of their playing ability. That's obviously a huge element of it, and why sometimes from the outside, like with Sadio Mane, people looked at it and thought, what are Liverpool doing? But stylistically, he was the perfect fit. And I think attitude and character also plays into that, because even if you have a sort of tough start or not really the start you want, look at Andy Robertson, for example, you have to be able to persevere and, you know, be persistent and push yourself through that. And what you've been through in life is a good indicator of how well you can deal with that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it's definitely deliberate. There's a clear method and a very, it's so in depth you can't imagine, because Liverpool have a very good research group, and the sort of data they process, and then when you couple that with the information the scouts give, you know, about all the things I've mentioned, what they pick up in training, and they do a lot of talking to people in and around clubs as well, in and around national teams, to get the clearest picture possible of a player to minimise the risk.
Good stuff. Okay, well, there's more on Keïta, on tour player, on the Anfield Wrap. If you don't subscribe, obviously you should be doing. We've got Mel, we've got Leipzig fans, we've got journalists who've watched them play fairly regularly, including Rafa Honigstein and Chris Williams. So there's a bit of a special out there on tour player right now about Keïta. If you're getting excited about it, and you should be, there's more for you there. Give that a listen. There's another one on Shaqiri as well, because obviously we've been consistently linked with them. So again, we spoke to fans that have watched them, journalists that have watched them, players that have played with them, including Stefan Henshaw. That's out there as well now as well. So give that a listen. Again, a bit of an insight into whether that is a player we want to see in Reds, and why maybe Liverpool are interested in him. Also out there today, Neil et al. Have been doing a series of reviews of what other clubs have been doing this season. There's a Burnley one out there. Now, I get that you might be watching this and think, that's not the biggest sell in the world. But Tyrone, who covers Burnley home and away, A, is a very good lad, but B, is a good journalist, and C, he's been with the team on a bit of a journey. He's speaking to the manager every week, and it is a good listen, believe me. Also out there yesterday as well, the Gutter Show, talking transfer gossip, and the World Cup Show does what it says on the tin. Also, with it being the summer, we're reviewing everything we're doing. We're coming up with ideas for the new season, and we'd love to know, do you listen to our podcast? If not, why not? What are we getting right? What are we getting wrong? Love to hear from you. Put it in the comment boxes. Send us messages on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Email us, do whatever you like. Just let us know, because we'd love to know, because we do take it on board. We are trying to get better and better, and we want to keep this thing going. Okay, a few more things then. A bit of transfer goss, as ever, is around Mel. But before we get onto that, I just wanted to talk about. Obviously, everyone goes mad for transfer gossip during the summer, but being realistic, where we are right now, I mean, we're just coming to the end of the group stages in the World Cup. It's a period of time where players who aren't at the World Cup are having a holiday, managers are on holiday, everyone's sharing those Klopp pictures. It's actually a quiet time, isn't it, right now in terms of transfer business, and so a lot of the gossip has to be taken with huge amounts of salt, doesn't it? Because a lot of the people who work in football simply aren't about at the moment, are they?
Yeah, the World Cup obviously always complicates matters as we know it. National team bosses don't want their players disrupted or distracted by transfers. So everything during this period, in terms of formalities and stuff like that, is placed on hold. Obviously, agents are not bound by that, so there'll still be discussions between agents and club officials will still be ongoing. Players who aren't at the World Cup but are on holiday, will still have their phones close by. We've known, many transfers, players get called on holiday and get told get on a plane and fly wherever to complete a deal. So even though it's quiet in terms of what's being reported, because there's nothing sort of concrete enough to report yet, and also everything's kept quiet because, again, the disruption to whichever national team a player is involved in, no club wants that, no agent wants that, no player wants that themselves. They don't want it to interfere with what they're doing. So I think even though it's quiet, it doesn't mean it's on pause or stalled or nothing's happening. It just means that it's not in anyone's interest to have stuff
blow the
out
lid
at
off,
at the moment.
Well, I mean, as I say, things continue to be rumoured anyway, regardless of what we just said there. Today it's out there that Cardiff would quite like to have Grujic, they'd like to keep him. No more on that really. It's from the Cardiff end, that particular story. It is from a lad who reports regularly on Cardiff, so something seems to be in it. I mean, no surprise really. He did all right there, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, and he seems to quite like the manager, which will come as a surprise to some Liverpool fans, because obviously, you know, Warnock, one of them. But, you know, Stephen Warnock on the preview actually said he was all right as well. So maybe he gets on better with players than we see from the outside. But yeah, I mean, going to be difficult for Grujic to get game time at Liverpool, you'd think. So no surprise if he maybe ends up back there.
Yeah, I think he grew a lot as a player, because he's quite graceful, has obviously all the, you know, offensive attributes that we could all tell even from pre-season games, from his time in Serbia. But I think what was missing was the discipline and the more, you know, dogged side, and he's got that at Cardiff. He's learned that. He's learned better positional awareness. He's learned more about, you know, protecting his attackers.
He looked a red card waiting to happen when he got to go at Liverpool, I thought, a few times. You can see the potential there, can't you? But
he was still raw and needed a lot of work, and obviously that work comes with game time, and under that manager, the way Cardiff played, he had to learn it. And I think he's grown considerably as a player. He seemed to really love the city. Cardiff fans seem to really love him as well.
Cardiff's boss, to be fair.
I don't think it's a bad move for him, you know, to spend another season on loan there, continue growing, and then see what happens. In saying that, though, I think pre-season gives all players a great opportunity. A great opportunity to push and show, well, actually, maybe I wasn't originally in the plan for the season, but here I'm showing you. Here are the ways you can use me. So
it is a clean slate for all of them. See what happens with that one. The other one, which seems totally incredulous, but let's do it anyway, because it is out there. Mundo Deportivo, one of these mad papers in Spain that just, I don't know how they fill it every day. Maybe they make things up. But they're claiming that Real Madrid have rejected a £159 million offer from Liverpool for Marco Asensio. I kind of think if that kind of dough had been offered by Liverpool, we would have heard a little bit more about it than Mundo Deportivo having some kind of exclusive on it. And then apparently as well, the players now decided that he won't be leaving the Bernabeu in this transfer window. Now, the alarm bells that ring here for me are, oh, well, he could have gone to Liverpool, but he's decided to stay. Maybe he wants a new contract, a little bit more money.
Yeah.
It seems a bit of a load of bollocks.
Absolutely. I mean, the money you're talking about there, £159 million, that is, you know, stratospheric. It would have been absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
Liverpool, you know, sold Felipe Coutinho for £142 million, and you never heard the end of that. That every single day there was a story about Coutinho in all sorts of papers, you know, whether it be Brazil, Spanish media, English media. Those big deals don't happen, you know, under the radar like that. Obviously, nothing in it, nothing realistic in it, apart from he's a very good player, and obviously all clubs will be looking at him, but, you know, not at that kind of price. No. And the fact that it says he wants to stay at Real Madrid, it's quite a contradictory story, I think. Because firstly, a club would never offer that amount of money, ever, or any amount of money really, if they're not certain that a player wants to join them. And that's always the first port of call to assess the interest. So yeah, it's just a nonsense story. As you say, because there's such a desperation for transfer news, and because it's quiet, the World Cup time, you know, loads of people will be under pressure to put out something, anything, and I think that's the case of that.
Okay, we're going to finish up with a few questions from the Twitter. We did this last week. In fact, we did a whole Talking Reds on it last week, me and Kofi. and it seemed to go down all right. So, you know, like I said, we take feedback on board. So I thought we'd do a few more this time. Some of them are mad. This is why I was grinning at my phone on the sly a minute ago, because there was one which I'm not going to read out, but it made me laugh. Let's see if we can find one that isn't too mad. Well, saying that, I might start with this one because it is mad. At Marks797 says, would you rather have 2 feet for hands or only be able to speak by shouting at the top of your lungs? I'm all right with the shouting.
Yeah, I think I'm also fine with the shouting.
Yeah, and I'm all right with the shouting. I mean, my default position a lot of the time is mainly speaking at the top of my lungs, so that's all right. I like these ones. We were having a look at some of these before and laughing about the sort of influence that, you know, people think anyone's got over anyone else, and here's one of them. Boy Georgist at Clearly Skyven, loving that. He says, why aren't we just signing Willian? Ask Mel to have a word with Jürgen about this, please. Can I have a word?
Okay, yeah.
You can just text them now and say, sign Willian, lad. Right, what else have we got? These are mad, aren't they? Is Pep Lijnders replacing Buvac, or do we still expect another new coach to come in?
I think Lijnders will be the replacement. Klopp's always worked in quite a small, you know, it's always been him, Krawietz, Buvac. When he came to Liverpool, Pep was incorporated into that. Was very highly rated, was massive for the flow from the academy to the first team. You know, the academy called it the Liverpool motorway because they said it wasn't a pathway anymore. It speeded up the process considerably, and that was all through Pep. Very big on the like on hands in training in terms of the drills and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, because Klopp likes a close-knit group, I think he just comes in and fills that void. With Krawietz, I think they'll both be assistants. It won't be like first assistant or second assistant. They both have different roles. Krawietz will mostly do all the analysis in terms of video and liaising with the performance analysis department, while Pep, I think, like I said, will be more involved in training and helping bridge the gap again between, you know, the youth prospects and the first team.
Okay, Paul Clarkin at _PaulieC_. He says, will Alan de Souza ever play a competitive game for Liverpool?
It's, you know, it's such a sad situation, because this kid, who was one of the best players in Brazil, you know, everyone was buzzing about him, did really well at the tournament Liverpool went and scouted him as, has gone to all ends of the, you know, playing in Finland, cycling in the snow to get to training, all, you know, moving through all these loan spells in order to tick the boxes for a work permit. And regardless of how good he is and everything he's endured because of where he's from and rules, you know, he probably won't get a permit anytime soon. The last I checked, there was still, you know, some points outstanding that he needed to go through. I don't know if that's progressed at all in the last 2 months, but I don't think so. And it's quite a heartbreaking process, I think,
for the lad.
Yeah, I mean, imagine his family and stuff as well, his parents who, you know, have sent him over, all this excitement at signing for Liverpool, and then you're just in the wilderness because of work permits. And as somebody who has to go through the work permit procedure, it's not fun, and I genuinely, every time I think about it, I feel so sorry for him.
All right, one more. David Farley. Lots of people asking questions along these lines, obviously because Germany have gone out the World Cup and everyone's having a big laugh about that. David Farley, at 7 Farley, says, what are the chances of Germany coming in for Jürgen?
I think he'd be very much at the top of their list. They'd want him. I think Jürgen would, in future, like to coach Germany. What we've seen from his career is he doesn't really leave a project until he feels he's given it everything. He's, you know, done all within his power to progress.
He does like
the
6,
club.
7 years, doesn't he, at clubs? That's
Yeah.
what his history's shown.
I think he'd find it difficult to turn down Germany because, you know, of what it means to him, it's the national team, but not now. I think he'd want to coach Germany in future, but if they came for him now, it would have to be a no.
There you go. That's been Talking Reds. Thanks for coming in today, Mel. Another cracker. And as I say, give us some feedback on what you think about our podcast. And if you're not listening to them, tell us why. Like, is it a technical thing? Is it you just can't be arsed? Love to know why. We'll be back tomorrow with more Talking Reds.